Every group of humans that has ever existed has faced the same problem. What do you do when someone breaks the rules? When a member of the group steals, lies, cheats, hurts another person, or refuses to share, how do you respond? Today we have police, courts, judges, prisons, and written laws to handle wrongdoing. But for the vast stretch of human history, none of these existed. There were no police, no courts, no jails, and no written laws at all. And yet, ancient human groups still had to deal with cheaters, bullies, thieves, and troublemakers, because wherever there are people who break the rules. So, how did ancient humans keep order and deal with wrongdoers in a world with no formal justice system? The answer is one of the most fascinating things anthropology has revealed about human nature, and it shows that the roots of justice run far deeper than any courtroom. To understand ancient justice, you first have to understand the situation our ancestors lived in. For most of human history, people lived in small, close-knit bands of a few dozen individuals who depended on one another completely for survival. In a group that small and that interdependent, everyone knew everyone else intimately and for their entire lives. There was no anonymity, no crowd to disappear into, no way to commit a wrong and then vanish among strangers. And this single fact, the smallness and closeness of the group, was itself the foundation of ancient order. In a tiny community where your survival depends on the cooperation of the people around you, your reputation is everything, and the opinion of the group is an immensely powerful force. This is the key to understanding how ancient humans handled rule-breaking. They did not rely on formal institutions, they relied on the overwhelming power of the community itself. The first and most common tools of ancient justice were remarkably gentle, at least at first, and they were aimed at correcting behavior rather than punishing for its own sake. The mildest and most frequent was simply social disapproval, expressed through gossip, criticism, and especially ridicule. We saw this in the way hunter-gatherers kept anyone from becoming too domineering. If a person behaved badly, boasted, took more than their share, or tried to lord it over others, the group would respond with teasing, mockery, and laughter, making fun of the offender until they corrected their behavior. This may sound trivial, but in a small group where you depend on everyone's goodwill, being mocked and disapproved of by the whole community is an immensely powerful pressure. Gossip and ridicule were not idle chatter. They were the everyday machinery of social control, a way of constantly nudging everyone back toward acceptable behavior. The fear of becoming the object of the group's scorn kept many a troublemaker in line. If gentle disapproval was not enough, the group could escalate to stronger measures. The next step was often shunning, the deliberate withdrawal of cooperation, conversation, and warmth. To be shunned by your community, to have people refuse to speak with you, work with you, or share with you, was a serious punishment in a world where survival depended on cooperation. It struck at the most basic human needs for connection and belonging, and it sent an unmistakable message that the person's behavior had to change. Shunning was a way for the group to express its collective judgment without violence, using the simple but devastating power of social exclusion. And if all else failed, ancient communities held a final severe sanction in reserve, which was banishment, expulsion from the group entirely. In the ancient world, this was one of the gravest punishments imaginable, because a lone human, cast out from the protection and cooperation of the band, faced terrible danger and a real possibility of death. Survival was a group enterprise, and to be expelled was to lose the safety net that kept a person alive. Banishment was reserved for the most serious and persistent offenders, those whose behavior so threatened the group that removing them was the only option. The collective power of the community, expressed ultimately through the threat of exclusion, was the bedrock of ancient order. The group governed its members by controlling the one thing every member needed most, which was membership itself. But ancient justice was not only about punishment. It was also, and perhaps primarily, about resolving conflict and restoring harmony, because in a small group that had to keep working together, festering disputes were dangerous. When two people quarreled, the goal was often not to declare a winner and a loser, but to settle the matter and restore peace so the group could continue to function. Here, the community often played the role of mediator. Respected individuals, often elders known for their wisdom and fairness, would help the disputing parties talk through their conflict, air their grievances, and reach some kind of resolution everyone could accept. This emphasis on reconciliation, on mending the social fabric rather than simply assigning blame, reflects the practical reality that these people had to live together, side by side, for the rest of their lives. You cannot lock someone away in a band of 30 people. You have to find a way to live with them, and so the restoration of working relationships was often more important than punishment. It is important to be honest and balanced, because ancient justice was not always gentle or fair by our standards. In serious cases, especially those involving violence, the response could be harsh. Anthropologists know that in some societies, a murderer might face violent retaliation, sometimes from the victim's family, in a cycle of revenge that could be difficult to stop. Feuds between families or groups could turn deadly, and the collective will of the group, while powerful, was not always just. A disliked or vulnerable person could be scapegoated, and the same social pressure that maintained order could also be turned cruelly against the innocent. We should not romanticize ancient justice as a perfect system of gentle correction. It could be brutal, and it could be unfair. But its fundamental mechanism, the power of the close-knit community to shape and control the behavior of its members, was remarkably effective at maintaining order without any formal institutions at all. What is truly striking is how deeply this ancient system still lives inside us. The discomfort you feel at being disapproved of, the sting of gossip, the powerful human need to belong and the fear of being excluded, the satisfaction of seeing a cheater exposed, the instinct that wrongdoers should face the judgment of the community. All of these are echoes of the way our ancestors maintained order for hundreds of thousands of years. Long before written laws, humans had a powerful, evolved sense of fairness, a sharp eye for cheaters, and a deep responsiveness to the approval and disapproval of others. These instincts were the original justice system, and they are still wired into us today, operating beneath the surface of all our courts and codes. So what did ancient humans do when someone broke the rules? They did not call the police, because there were none. They turned the immense power of the community itself upon the wrongdoer through gossip and ridicule, through shunning and exclusion, through the wisdom of mediators, and, in the last resort, through the terrible weapon of banishment. They worked to resolve conflicts and restore harmony because they had to keep living together. And in doing so, they built a system of order without institutions, justice without judges, law without writing, held together by nothing more than the powerful ancient force of a community's collective will. The courtroom and the law book are recent inventions, but the human sense of justice, the watchful eye of the group, and the deep need to belong are old beyond measure, and they were keeping order around the fires of our ancestors long before the first law was ever written down.